Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of the Cover 4 podcast for nearly mid-December already. I'm Jim Trickett, along with my partner out in Provo, Utah, with the view of the mountains with a little bit of snow there, Randy Gibson. How much snow you got on the ground out there?
You know, it's starting to melt off down here in the valley and in the neighborhoods, but still a little bit on the ground. But mountains have already been hit pretty good, Jim. Sundance, which is just about 10 miles up the road from me at the ski resort, a couple of weeks ago, they had 29 inches and they got some more last weekend. So they're probably up above 30 now for sure.
Oh, yeah. Everybody getting kind of anxious to get up into the mountains, and with it being close to Christmas time, everybody will be getting there.
Yep. Lots of skiers already hitting the town. You can see them around.
Yep. Well, this week's podcast, it kind of starts on a sad note for me anyway. Friday about noon, Mom and I had just sat down for lunch, and Jimmy Trammell, the former sports editor of the Prior Daily Times, which is now kaput. Now he works for the Tulsa World as one of their entertainment writers. Posted a thing from another sports guy in Tulsa, Jeff Buchalari, that a very good friend, he had just retired from being the executive director of the J.M. Davis Gun Museum, Wayne McCombs. Wayne was a guy that, if you wanted to know about baseball in Tulsa, I mean, we're talking the Oilers, the Drillers, the Golden Hurricane. You probably go all the way back also with ORU when they were known as the Titans way back when, now the Golden Eagles. Wayne got up Friday morning, didn't feel good. His wife took him to an urgent care there in Claremore. They saw what was going on, called for an ambulance to come and get him. And before it could get there, unfortunately, Wayne succumbed to a heart attack and passed away Friday about 10 o'clock in the morning. The bad thing is that Wayne was supposed to be the talent stat guy for the Arkansas OU game Saturday afternoon at the BOK Center. And I got on the horn, got a hold of my buddy Don King with Jinx Radio. He was in Oklahoma City doing the Thunder's G League team at the time. He didn't get a hold of me until about 2:30, 3 o'clock. And I asked him, I said, has Wayne got that game? He said, yeah, he does. And so he got a hold of the production company that was doing the ball game for ESPN. They contacted me. I said, yeah, I'll do it. Contacted Kathleen Carrier with ESPN, who I work with on the Arkansas games, and asked her if there was any other games that he had. And sure enough, he was supposed to be the official stat guy Sunday afternoon for the University of Tulsa's women's game against Florida. So I kept the road hot for Saturday and Sunday, going to the BOK Saturday, doing talent stats with Mark Neely, former voice of the Tulsa Drillers. He took Bruce Howard's place a number of years ago. Bruce now the director of broadcasting for the University of Tulsa. And Mark does stuff for ESPN, bases around I think he's still basing around the Tulsa area, maybe up in Kansas City. I'm not real sure where he's at, but we got through the ball game Saturday. Mark did a tribute to Wayne at the under 12 timeout in the second half. And he was 71 years old. He's written 2 books about baseball in Tulsa. One of them that I remember is called Let's Go Tulsa. The old Andy Andrews yell that Andy would scream at Oiler Park there on the fairgrounds back when the ballpark was there. And I'm talking not Driller Stadium or Sutton Stadium. I'm talking the old ballpark that was behind the county health department there on the fairgrounds, and had a picture of the on the cover was the old Oiler mascot back then. And then he had another book as well. He was planning on writing another one before this happened, but his funeral was today up in Claremore. I know there was a lot of people there. I didn't get a chance to go, but Wayne is a guy that will be sorely, sorely missed by all of us that are sports guys that worked in Tulsa, around this area. Great guy. If you look at my Facebook page, Wayne was on one of my friends there on Facebook. You'll see a picture, several pictures of him. He was they dedicated a home plate monument. It's in the parking lot of the fairgrounds of where home plate originally was at Oiler Park. And so that's going to be a huge loss for all of us, not having Wayne around, because he did stat work like I do, mostly with the University of Tulsa, where he was a graduate of TU. He also was in the last class of OMA, which is now Rogers State University. That was the Oklahoma Military Academy. He was from Claremore, did the Field of Dreams banquet that's coming up next month. And it's a fundraiser not only for the Rogers State baseball team, but also for the Claremore Zebras baseball team. And he would bring in former major leaguers. I know Jerry Royce was one, pitched for the Cardinals and the Astros, and got his minor league play in Oiler Park back in the 60s. Several others came to Claremore for this thing. It's kind of like the old Diamond Dinner that was in Tulsa back in the 60s and 70s, and even my time at the Broken Arrow Ledger, I went there because Jim Brewer, former relief pitcher for the Dodgers, who was a pitching coach for Larry Koshel at ORU. He was involved with that as well. But like I say, a huge, huge loss for myself, Don King, Barry Lewis, all of us around the baseball community in Tulsa. That's a big, big loss. And now I don't know who in the world we turn to get any history information about minor league baseball in the city of Tulsa.
That's a huge loss for the Tulsa area, and for it to come so unexpected and sudden, I think that's what was the real shock for everybody.
It really was, and especially too, he just retired back in June from J.M. Davis, and that's a quite a place. I went through it 2 years ago when Wayne was lucky enough to, for a year, acquire all of Roy Clark's artifacts.
Another great Tulsan, yeah.
Yeah, the great Hee Haw. He was on Hee Haw for years and years. Had that stuff. All of his stuff whenever him and the Oak Ridge boys went to Russia.
Mhm.
Um, and the one thing that was in there that I took a picture of, and I've got it on uh, my Photoshop, is Roy was not only Roy Clark was part owner of the Drillers when they came into being in '77, but he was a member of the Grand Ole Opry,
Mhm. That's
and
right.
he everybody who is a member or will become a member of the Grand Ole Opry will get the Opry Member Award. It's
Mhm.
a 14-inch replica of the world famous Grand Ole Opry mic stand, and it's on an oak base. And there's a significance to the oak base. It is made from the pews of the Ryman Auditorium,
Oh,
the
really?
famous former home of the Grand Ole Opry.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Been
that
there.
as far as baseball, it's going to be a little different going for people to go around the ballpark. Whether it be One Oak Field where the Drillers play, or go to JL Johnson where ORU plays their games, and not see Wayne McCombs floating around the ballpark.
Mhm.
It's going to be very difficult to not see him around. But well, let's turn the page, and high school basketball in full swing as far as
Is.
the area schools. Tahlequah, the Lady Tigers won the tournament at home. They defeated Booker T in the final, beat them 45-41. So they got to claim their own tournament. That's a good thing, as uh, they're one of the top teams in Class 5A. And let me look and see if I'm pretty sure they had to have played last night. Uh, where they were at, I don't think they were home last night. If they did play, as we use a thing, I use a thing called Scortal Oklahoma. It's got all the scores, and people report the scores. And Tahlequah, the girls went to Pryor, defeated the Pryor Tigers by the score of 61-40 last night.
Good.
And then the boys will get their score in 5A, which is nice. I'm glad they're not in 6A anymore.
Yeah.
Uh,
That'll
that's
help.
It will help a lot.
Yes, it will.
Tahlequah beat Pryor 54-31 last night. So
Good.
uh, 2 wins for the Tigers. And then they will Friday. Let's just see where they're at. Let's see. Tahlequah looks like they are playing Idle Friday night. So they're off till next week. So I think that's the home opener next week when they come back on the 19th. And that will put them as 5A boys. They take on the Collinsville Cardinals next Tuesday night at the T-Mac. And like I say, that will be the true home opener for THS, not counting the 3 games in the tournament. The boys, they lost 75-62 to Bixby Saturday night
Mm.
at the tournament. Uh, the I went out and watched Keys last night, and they beat Westville both in the girls and the boys game, and got to see a few folks out there, and one of them surprised was Alicia Keys Zadro. She,
Really?
her daughter, her oldest daughter, is a sophomore out there.
Really?
Starts, and she had 17 of the first 31 points for the Lady Cougars last night.
Well, okay. Number one, I can't believe Alicia Keys is old enough to have a daughter that's a sophomore. but
Yeah, you and me both.
but number two, I didn't realize she was still in the area. But third, I'm not surprised if she takes after her mom that that
Mhm.
was the case.
It is. She
Alicia was
wears,
a fantastic player, absolutely
yes.
fantastic and fun to watch.
Yep. And she was teaching at Wagner, but I think she told us last night she just got a job with Epic, and so she was
Really?
leaving them to go and work with them so she can see her play ball.
Well, I can't blame her.
I don't either.
Can't
And
blame her at all.
Nick is the head baseball coach out there at Key.
Really?
So the family goes to school out at Keys. The Cougars home tomorrow night because of the official shortage. They are splitting up the games. Some of the small schools are playing on Thursday night instead of Friday, and they're going against the Sequoia Indians tomorrow
Very
night
interesting.
out
So
at the Keys Gym
a
on
county
Thursday
tournament
night.
or a county game going on there.
Mm-hmm. My bowling night, so I won't go out there. So,
Mm. I
but
wish I was. I wish I was in town to be able to go. I would love to see that game.
well, it'll be a, that for Keys would be the gate game. That would be a full house out there tomorrow night
Hmm.
playing against Sequoia, and they got a real, you've been out there. They've got a really, really nice gym out at Keys.
Oh
So,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that will help. And like I say, they'll be there Thursday night. We do this on Wednesday, so tomorrow night will be the ball game for them. Uh, Looking at Northeastern, well, they went up to Emporia. Girls had a chance to beat Emporia Saturday, but got beat uh, 63-57 because the Lady Hornets outscored them 20-4 in the final 10 minutes.
Wow.
So they will play tonight, make the short trek to Claremore, and take on the Hillcats of Rogers State in another MIAA contest. And then finish up the 2023 portion of the schedule on Saturday, traveled to Topeka to take on the Ichabods of Washburn. So the guys lost 89-77,
Mm.
and they'll take on the Hillcats in the nightcap against a member of the 2003 national championship team, who's the head coach up there at Rogers State, Justin Barkley, who I affectionately call Clyde. He will be leading his troops against Jay Havens in the Redmond come tonight. That will be about 7:30 tonight. Girls game starts at 5:30, 7:30 for the men's game, or somewhere close to that. So
Very good.
the big thing tonight, 6 o'clock our time, 5 o'clock out there in Utah. The big reveal: the Southeastern Conference football
Yep.
schedule will be announced for 2024. We kind of know a couple of them already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tennessee, I think that's going to be the first one
I believe
for
so.
OU
It's going to come
uh,
fast.
at
Yep.
Owen Field. Then what could be the last home game of the season was revealed.
Yep.
23rd of November.
Yep. Nick
Be
Saban and
against Nick Saban and Alabama.
Alabama.
And then here
What
comes
a
the $1 million
game.
band.
What a game that is going to be too.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very interesting.
This, I am really going to be interested to see what it does look like for not only for OU and Arkansas, but I'm kind of curious to see what Texas looks like.
I am too. Texas, Sark has really done a fantastic job in bringing that program back to where it always should have been.
Yes.
I mean, Texas is one of those brands. As a Sooner, I love to poke fun at Texas. Of course, that's what makes college football fun.
Right.
But let's face it, Texas is one of those programs that demands respect, and they haven't been getting it the last several years. And he's done, just in his 2 short years or 3, whatever it's been now, it hadn't been very long.
2 years.
2 years. He's done a fantastic job. And to already have him in the playoff, and like we talked about last week, don't be surprised to see him in the national championship game.
Yeah, because they've got a really good chance of beating Michigan.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And at the Rose Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait, correction. Scratch that last transmission. They got Washington.
They got Washington. At the Sugar Bowl.
At the Sugar Bowl. But Michigan and Alabama at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, and don't be surprised to see Alabama upset Michigan. And
I fully expect it.
It would not surprise me to see a rematch of Texas-Alabama. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
And this would be on a neutral site.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah, kind of.
Because it's at NRG in Houston.
Right.
So it won't be a true neutral site like playing it at
it's kind of like when Oklahoma had to play Florida State in Orlando or in Miami. Right. Those times, it's not really a neutral site.
No, no, it's not. It's not neutral at all. But the one thing it would be, as far as the seating is concerned, it'd almost be like OU Texas.
It will be. It will be. Mm-hmm. And speaking of OU Texas, I guess you heard the news. New contract.
Yes.
With the Cotton Bowl. It will be staying at the Cotton Bowl. There will be something like $141 million renovation to the stadium facility.
Sorely needed. You know that because of where you have been down there.
Mm-hmm. Many times.
Post band member thing. Could we see 2 tunnels?
I don't know. That's just something that's so unique. I think that would take away from it.
What I'm thinking about is it's 2 tunnels, but you would have a wall between the 2.
You could see that.
Something like that.
That's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the feeling, though. I think the players would be disappointed if there were 2 separate on different ends of the stadium, like a traditional stadium.
I was thinking on the same end.
Yeah, the same end. That might be more realistic. It's very, unless you've experienced coming down that thing, you just can't explain it.
Yeah.
It's just a unique feeling that very few of us ever get.
In the renovation, I mean, you always have these big scoreboards like we've got today.
Mm-hmm.
But if they could look and find in the old junk pile, the old Fair Play scoreboard that they had not only at the Cotton Bowl, but Owen Field had it too. Same thing. Had the red light between the minutes and the seconds.
Right.
You remember
Right.
that thing? And
I do remember that.
just it's
Yes.
just the score, down, distance, maybe where the ball was at, and then the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that old thing way,
Yeah, I
way
sure
back?
do. I
You
sure
know,
do.
find that and just put it up there for old time's sake somewhere.
It would be fun, even if
Yeah.
it would be fun. I kind of wish they would like put that thing. I don't. Who knows if it even exists anymore? But I wish they would put that thing somewhere around the Switzer Center for in
Hmm.
Norman for the one that was in
Well,
Norman.
there's no telling. That thing's probably been long gone for
Long gone and
30,
destroyed.
well, 40, well, at least 40 years,
Yeah,
going on 50.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that would be that would be fun. Uh Portal,
But
you know,
Portal,
oh,
man,
that's uh
Oklahoma. I got lots of
Oklahoma's
Oklahoma
taking a
news.
hit.
Oklahoma's taken a huge hit, especially in the offensive line.
Yes.
Um, now, of course, now talking about Portal, this is interesting. Of course, big name was Dylan Gabriel, quarterback.
Hmm.
Went to Oregon. Did you hear the news today?
No.
Bo Nix announced he was coming back for a super senior season.
Ooh, interesting.
So, of course, that was to Oregon. That's where Dylan Gabriel went. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there with that.
Uh
Um,
Question.
mhm.
Does Gabriel have a red shirt?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but uh I'm trying to think about Nick's. I don't know if he ever used his at at Auburn.
Don't know.
I don't know either. But that's I had not heard that news.
That just broke before we come on.
Oh wow.
So that's going to be interesting. But talking about Oklahoma taking a hit, their offensive line has
Yeah.
taken massive, massive hits. Um, I was just kind of going through. So, of course, Andrew Rhyme and Tyler Guyton, both big time offensive linemen
Mm-hmm.
for the Sooners this year, they both declared for the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's two right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Took another huge hit. Um, Savion Bird, Nate Anderson, and the biggest hit, Caden Green,
Yeah. Yeah.
all announced to go to the portal. Caden Green is the one that's got everybody in Norman scratching their head. They can't figure out what happened. Caden has been an Oklahoma fan since he was just a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
He has always dreamed of playing for the Sooners. He was a starter. He and um, early on in his high school, he didn't even want to visit other schools. He said he declared he was going to go to the Sooners early. He didn't even we wasn't interested in visiting anybody else. He wasn't interested in taking calls from coaches of any other school. That's mindset. That's where he was going. Big talk around Norman is NIL money. It was
Very
just
possible. Yeah.
wherever he's going, it's just was too much and too good to turn down. So that's been a big discussion in Norman.
Yeah.
Um, Running back room took a hit. Marcus Major, who's
Yeah. Marcus
started
Major.
the season,
That hurts. That
that
hurts.
hurts. Dalen Smothers is another one. But I told you last week, the one that really bothered me the most was my most favorite running back, even above Gavin Sawchuk, is
Mm-hmm.
Tyree Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interesting though, Jim, Walker is out practicing for the bowl game.
Mm.
So he has been at practice. He is preparing for the Alamo Bowl, but he's still in the portal. Now he's a walk on, and he's not on scholarship.
Right.
Some some buzz around Norman is he just trying to get that scholarship?
I would
Don't know.
say, yeah. And you can't hardly say that I blame him.
No, don't blame him at all.
So with him
Um,
being walk on, he's able to do that.
Yeah.
And so, puts the cards on the table and say, hey, look, I still want to be a part of this thing, but I'm going to put my name in the hat
Yep.
in the portal. If somebody comes to me, I'm going.
Yep. Now, more hits for the Sooners, of course. We talked about on defense, Reggie Grimes, defensive end, defensive
Mhm.
back Key Lawrence, which was a big disappointment to me. I
Yep.
really liked Lawrence as a player. I thought he did a good job. He that was kind of a shocker. Tight end Jason Llewellyn, wide receiver DJ Graham,
Mhm.
all in the portal.
Yeah.
Um, Now, some good news. Offensive tackle Spencer Brown from Michigan State committed to the Sooners.
Right.
So that'll help fill that gap a little bit. Defensive back Dejon Malone committed. He came from San Diego State, the Aztecs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's going to help. But the big one, the one that people are excited about in the portal, is Deion Burks, wide receiver from Purdue.
Mm-hmm. He
Huge
will
for
he
that running
will
back.
help because he's got some jets.
He does. He does. Burks, and of course, Anthony, the one that got hurt in the Texas game, the transfer from Michigan, he'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Nick Anderson, who is just who has had a fantastic year. Of course, he was the hero um, with Gabriel in the Texas game. He was the one that
Right.
caught the game-winning pass.
Right.
So wide receiver rooms with the addition of Burks, and you've already got Anthony that should be back, and you've got Anderson. Then you've got Jaden Gibson and Jarrell Farouk both coming back. The wide receiver room for Oklahoma is going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
Running back, if they can get Walker to stay, that'll help. Sawchuk looks like he's back number one and will
Mm-hmm.
continue to be. But Walker is just one of those, like we've talked about before, like a Samaje P ride. You got 3rd and 2, he'll get you 3 to 4 every
Right.
time.
Yeah.
So, hopefully they can get him to stay. Just concerned about that offensive line. Biedenbo's going to have his work cut out for him down there.
Yes, he is. Because now you're going from the Big 12, the SEC, and it is not a cupcake, folks. No way.
No, not at all. I think we've kind of talked about from the BYU side what we saw BYU, what happened to BYU going
Mm-hmm.
from independent
Independent
to
to Big 12.
Big
Yes.
12. I think that same sort of step is going to be made for Oklahoma into the SEC.
Yep. Arkansas, they have 2 of their guys staying on the offensive line, or Andrew Chambly and Ty Crawford. Both said on Monday that they would be returning. Then you've got the wide receiver room. You've got uh, Isaac Tesla is coming back. Um, the other tight end that got hurt in the AMM game, he's staying. Luke Hass, uh, Dubinion, and Augustive are staying in the running back room. They picked up a lineman. I know that. They also picked up uh, the quarterback from Boise State. He's coming to Fayetteville.
I saw
Visited
that
over
one.
the weekend, and he has already signed. Taylen Green is his name. Had an official visit, and he decided he's coming to Fayetteville. So in case KJ decides to go somewhere else, then they've already got an established quarterback already on
Mm-hmm.
board, not counting the kid who's already there. So that'll
Well,
help a little bit. They got to find a kicker with Cam Little declaring for the NFL draft. Like I said, I don't blame him. He's got a chance to be a third or fourth round draft pick in the NFL draft. He's got that type of a leg. And he kicked off, and in fact, he was the first team kickoff specialist in the All SEC team. I don't think he had one kickoff that was returned this year. If there wasn't very many. So,
speaking of kicker, Oklahoma's going to have to find them one. I hope they can get one out of the portal too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So both of us in a pickle.
Something I failed to mention though for Oklahoma, some very, very good news they got on the defensive side of the ball. Billy Bowman coming back for another year. I think it helped having his girlfriend on the softball team.
Oh,
Jay Coleman. So everybody, but Danny Stutzman, star linebacker, he had declared for the draft. He was going to. Big announcement yesterday. He changed course. He released a video with the great Brian Bosworth. And
so he's going to stay put.
He's going to stay put for another year. And said that he just wasn't quite ready and he wanted to play that last year in the SEC.
Yep.
And I think it'll help his draft.
It will.
If he has a great season, it'll help his draft prospect. He'll jump up.
Jump up from probably in the middle of the draft to probably in the first 2 or 3 rounds.
I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
So don't know what kind of NIL money he might have got for that. In his video he released, Bosworth was tossing him the key fob of a brand new Corvette. Okay. I'm sure that didn't hurt anything.
Oh, no, it didn't hurt.
But it was kind of a funny video. If you remember back in the 80s, Bosworth, there was a famous picture of him. He drove a white Corvette. And you would see him all over. He lived in an apartment complex down the street from me. And so I would see him all the time with that driving that white vet around. And so anyway, it had a picture of Boz with that white vet, and then you saw Stutzman coming off the plane and Boz tossing him the key to a brand new white vet. And you saw Stutzman taking off in it. And that was how he announced, I'm staying for one more year, and work to be completed or something like that on it. But anyway, it was fun. But that's going to really, really help that defense when they go into the SEC to have those two guys back. Yes. I did see where a defensive lineman from Clemson made a visit to Norman.
Yes, so I did too.
We'll see what happens there.
And on the Oklahoma State front, Ollie Gordon got a big award. First time ever. This is something that I was surprised with. Neither Thurman Thomas or Barry Sanders had won the Doak Walker.
Yeah, I was too. I couldn't remember, but that kind of shocked me.
That surprised me as well. That he was the first Oklahoma State running back to get the Doak Walker, and he was did a whale of a job for the Cowboys, and we'll see him in the bowl game.
So yes, you will.
That's could he have his huge coming out party in the bowl game just like Barry did that night after he won the Heisman?
Could be. I think Gordon, it's hard for me to say this as a Sooner, but Gordon deserved that award. He did a good job. Whenever they finally found their running back and put him in as RB1, he had a fantastic rest of the season. He carried that OSU offense. He did great, and he deserved that award. And I don't think you've seen the best of him yet.
No, I don't think you have either. Tulsa will see what they do after a 4-8 season. It'll be interesting to see how they recruit in the American. I know that Kevin Wilson he'll plug some holes. I mean, they weren't that far away from 6-6
No,
this
they
year.
weren't. It was disappointing that they didn't make a bowl.
Yeah. Well, they lost 2 or 3 ball games by under a touchdown. One of them was
Hmm.
in overtime.
Hmm.
So they'll be better. Um, Talking about Tulsa, I'll talk about their women's basketball team. They went. I had that game Sunday. They beat Florida 72-64. And Randy, I'll tell you right now, that's the best I've seen a TU women's basketball team in a long, long time. They got a new coach. She's in her second year there. They finally got rid of Matilda Mossman, and I think she made the call. Rick Dixon didn't have to do it, but they're sitting 7-3 right now. They were 6-3 going into the game against a 6-2 Florida ball club. It's not half bad,
Hmm.
and they've got 2 girls on their team. They combined for 20 plus, and this is the 4th time this year that they combined for 20 points or more, and they'd won the ball game.
Wow.
It's uh, it was enjoyable to go watch them play. I was doing a play-by-play back to the graphics department somewhere, either Charlotte. I figure it was in Charlotte. Was who I was talking to, and the way I do it is you don't give the name, you just give the color and the number, what the shot was. If it was just a plain old field goal, 3-pointer, free throws, rebounds, etc. And
Hmm.
that's what I did for just under 2 hours. That's the luxury of the women's game. It's so much quicker than the men's game.
Hmm.
Uh, we started the game at 1:02, and we were done just before 3 o'clock.
Oh, wow. That's
And,
fast.
well, see, the women's game is 4 10-minute quarters, and you only have one media timeout a quarter at the under 5.
Hmm.
Then you have, as I call it, the stretch. You call a timeout in the second half, 30-second timeout. It stretches to a full timeout. So that becomes the media uh, in the third quarter. So we don't have 2 medias in the
Hmm.
second half. Then or at least in the third quarter anyway, or fourth quarter if you don't call a timeout in the third. You have 1 full, 3 30s. They uh, do not lose the timeout at halftime if you don't use it. In the men's game, it's use it or lose it in the
Hmm.
first half. In the women's game, it is not. So you keep the timeout. So you still have 4, the 1 full, 3 30s, even in the second half. So that was one thing I was thinking there in the third quarter. I said, and I look up the scoreboard and I see uh, TU with 4 timeouts. I said, wait a minute, aren't they supposed to lose one? I talked to Dwayne DePron, who was doing the talent stats, former sports information director at Kansas State, and he asked the girl who's doing play-by-play. She said, "No, you keep the timeout." I said, "Okay." So it's just the men only. So there's going to be some,
Hmm.
there might be a little difference when they sit down to talk about the rule book at the end of the season, probably at the Final Four. So that's like I say, I do that. It's kind of the as I call it, the fun job, just like you doing the spotting uh,
Mm-hmm.
for Compass, and I do the stats for ESPN, the SEC network. So my next gig's in a couple of weeks at Fayetteville, unless I get yelled upon to go back up to Tulsa for something. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'd wind up possibly getting an ORU game if they're on at some point.
Hmm.
At I'm not real sure who does the Summit League games. To be honest with you, I think they're probably all ESPN Plus games. That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
guessing. So that means digital. So you don't have to have as many people as you do whenever you televise it, like Sunday's game on ESPNU. So, well, you got anything else you can think of? I
Um,
think we pretty much
Pretty much
got
covered
close
it.
to covered.
Out here in Provo, um, some of the big news. I think we may have touched on this last week. Utah Utes, Cam Rising, their good
Mm-hmm.
quarterback that got hurt. He's coming back for another year.
Yep.
Um, BYU lost their good running back. Um, so their running back room is going to change up next year. We'll see what happens with them, and if Coach Sataki can get some changes on his staff, if they're making a couple of changes in coaches and assistant
Mm-hmm.
coaches, and we'll see if they can pull some stuff together and have a better year next year in their second season of the Big 12.
Yep. Well, one thing I'm going to do later on this afternoon, put it on Valley Sports Southwest. Believe it or not, it is state championship time in Texas.
Wow.
And before Mom and I went to lunch, flipped it over. Craig Way was doing the Class 1A Division 1 state championship game. Okay, Class 1A in Texas is 6-man.
Wow.
So they have two divisions, similar to what we're going to go to next year in the lower classes, 3A, 2A, and A here in Oklahoma. The field, they're playing everything at Jerry's place, including that.
Wow.
And
Good.
the field is 80 yards by 40 yards. So the
Huh.
10-yard line is the goal line, and the end line is the goal line.
Oh, wow.
And then they bring in these H style portable goalposts for kicking the extra point, because here's the difference of 6-man football: 15 yards for a first down, not 10. That's one.
Interesting.
Two, the quarters are 10 minutes and not 12. Thirdly, the extra point kicking is 2, running is 1, and a field goal is 4 points and not 3.
Wow.
And if you want to throw the football, you have to toss it behind. The quarterback cannot get the snap and throw it. He's got to toss it to a running back to throw the football.
Oh, wow.
And
Very interesting.
I would next year, this time, I'd like to make a little trek down to Arlington. You would get to see 3 ball games for a $20 bill. You get to see the 2 6-man games, and then the 2A, either Division 2 or Division 1 game, is the nightcap. They start at noon. Then the second game would be at probably around 3 o'clock. And then the final game at 7,
Wow.
because they gotta sweep off the sideline off the field, because they have to chalk the sideline for 6-man.
Huh.
So
Interesting. I would
and it
love to see that.
goes through the middle of the NFL logo on the side
Huh.
next to the numbers.
Huh.
So if you could find a way of going to Bally Sports app on your phone, you could probably watch the Division II 6-man game on there.
Wow. I'll have to look for that. That would be kind of fun to watch, actually.
It is, and when I left it, it was, I think, still in the first quarter, and it was 22-12 was the score, and they still had probably about 4 minutes to go in the first quarter, and the defense had not stopped anybody yet.
Wow.
And don't be surprised. I have seen games when I've looked it up on Dave Campbell's Texas Football of a team scoring 100 points. And
wow.
the other team may score 60 or 70 and the other team doesn't get 45, where if the team leads by 45 or more at the end of halftime, going to the end of the game's over once it hits 45 or more.
Wow.
So,
interesting.
yeah. And another
That'd be
thing,
fun.
Oklahoma, we need to look at basketball. I was out there last night for that Keys Westville game. It was 55-25 at the end of 3 quarters. Well, I was talking with Chip Collins, the assistant boys coach from Westville, and I said, if we're playing this game in Arkansas, final quarters continuous clock. And so something that OSSAA may need to think about.
Yeah,
when you have a runaway, not only in football, but also in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So they do that in Arkansas over there. I think if it's 28 points or more, maybe 35 in football after halftime, then it's one where they spin the clock. So then you get out of there a lot quicker.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
that's it, I guess.
We have got that covered. One other thing, I'll plug this. If you're a baseball card nut like I am, and you're listening in the area, you want to go to a card show, go to Bentonville this weekend. GG2 Sports Cards is having a big, one of their big card shows at the Four Seasons Hotel on Southeast Walton Boulevard, and doesn't cost anything to go. So if you want to buy something, go over there. They got a big show. If you got some cards that you would like to have graded, like I just did, Nash Cards from Memphis, Tennessee will be there. They can send them off for you, send them out to California. They'll ship them back to Memphis after they grade them, and then they'll ship them to your house. So I got mine done and got my 15 cards back here just about 10 days ago. So, and I was very, very pleased with how the grades were. So if you want to think about that this weekend, that'll be Friday and Saturday from 10 to 6 over there in Bentonville. So
be fun.
All right, Randy, let's shut her down for this week. Get ready for next week. We'll discuss the schedule of the SEC. It's going to be
Yes, we
Pull
will.
up
That's
everybody's schedule. Watch that thing tonight at 6. It's on ESPN or SEC Network.
can't
I'm
wait to see
going to
it.
be curious to see what everybody looks like, what Arkansas is going to look like, OU. When the heck they play. We know where they're playing. We just don't know the dates yet.
Don't know when.
Come 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock your
We'll
time.
know.
All
Be
right.
interesting.
For Randy Gibson, I'm Jim Trickett. Thanks a lot for watching the Cover 4 podcast. We'll see you next week. So long, everybody.